Welcome to Empowering Innovators, the YouTube series where we'll talk about innovation the startup way. Today I have with me Willemijn Verloop, social impact investor and founder of Social Impact Ventures. Welcome, Willemijn.
Good to be here.
So, Willemijn, welcome today. Great to have you here. You're an investor in social impact companies. You sit on the board of Tony Chocolonely, a real social impact venture. You run a fund. You are the founder of Warchild. That's quite a lot of different things that you've done as a social entrepreneur. Can you explain what connects the dots between all the activities that you do?
I like doing many things at the same time, but they're all connected. At least for me they are. So the knowledge and experience I get from one I can use for the next. So I do think that I can add value to all the different elements, and I enjoy starting new things.
So you love going from 0 to 1. We talked about that a few weeks ago. And so when things become a bit bigger, that is less your thing. You like to take the initiative and help things grow?
I think I like the 0 to 1 phase most. However, with Warchild, which was the first organization I founded, I stayed for 15 years, and when I left, we were definitely beyond 1. We had an organization in 13 countries with a lot of staff, a little multinational that way, and working with hundreds of thousands of children every day. So that was, we really went through the scale-up phase with Warchild. So I did enjoy that phase as well, I have to say. And for me to move on from Warchild into social entrepreneurship was personally a very logical step. But it did raise a lot of questions with people why I left the NGO world. And I think the driver is the same. I love making impact. And I really wanted the entrepreneurial element of creating impact to be a larger part of what I did. And one of the downsides of working in NGOs is that your customer never pays for your product, right. Which means it's more difficult to really innovate, to create the best product or service for the person you're creating that for. So you miss the market mechanism, and often the capital that flows into development cooperation, for instance, decides where work's being done, not where your biggest value add is. And when you look at really trying to solve societal problems in an innovative way, I think market mechanism works in creating the best products and services and keeping the innovation flowing. And I think social entrepreneurs are the best actors in that field, trying to create societal change in a very gutsy entrepreneurial way. And they see opportunities where other people see challenges or problems. Yeah. These entrepreneurial minds see the opportunity and in a business way. And when the business model of a social entrepreneur works, you can actually solve societal issues at scale. And I love that. So this is how
Where does this come from? When did you wake up one morning and said, wow, this is what I want to do. I want to make impact. I want to be in this world of social entrepreneurship. Was this something that came from how you were brought up, or did you experience certain things maybe from your Warchild period? What?
In hindsight, you can come up with all kinds of smart answers, but I don't really know the right answer to it. For me, there was never any drive to try and start commercial projects. I know what makes me happy, and that's somehow doing something with people and helping people. But I didn't know I was going to start Warchild. I don't come from a background of activists or. I was raised with the knowledge that we're extremely lucky to live in this country, and really looking over borders and understanding what's happening in the rest of the world. But I'm not really sure where it came from. For me, I kind of I studied history, and I did choose that study because I wanted to find out why we don't learn from history, why we keep making the same mistakes over and over and over. And from then I went to the United Nations for a short project and started to work for a lobby organization trying to create peace in the Balkans. So actually the peace activist thing started from when I was 22. So I think it's always been there, and I don't really know where it comes from, but I do know that trying to create impact is what
makes you happy.
Makes me happy.
Yeah. And the entrepreneurial side, do you come from an entrepreneurial family?
Neither, no.
What happened?
No entrepreneurs. But I do come from a family where people are very gutsy and self-assured and don't take no for an answer. Right. And although that was not neither of my parents use that in their professional life. It is something that I've always learned. If you can't go straight, then you try and go take a left corner or a right corner. Yeah. There is a way to where you want to go. And I think that's part of being entrepreneurial,
sure.
is not taking no for an answer. And really, if you believe in something, keep going. And for me, with War Child, I think part of it, what also really helped me was not just not taking no for an answer, but being a bit naive. I believe in naivete is as strong as if you don't know all the bears you're going to meet on the road ahead,
right.
You'll just go down the road,
right.
and you'll dance along with them when you're going down. And but if you try and get everything, if you know everything, you might not take the step. So I think I kind of went straight on into things like building War Child, building social enterprise in L. I'd never built an ecosystem, I had no clue. Now I'm running an impact investing fund. I have no financial background. So I do tend to go do things that I'm not extremely knowledgeable about. But I think the naive new way in does help getting things in a certain pace that works.
Yeah. So you don't think about the potential barriers because you know that it will come anyhow.
There's
and
always
you'll
barriers.
jump them, when the time is fit for that, basically.
Yeah, there will always be
always
barriers.
be challenges,
I didn't know what to do as to raise an investment fund.
Right.
I knew that we really needed impact capital in the market to help scale social entrepreneurs. So if I know where it needs to go, then I always believe there will be a way to get there, and it's just about finding the right people to join your team, and then you can really accelerate.
Make something happen. Hey, if you talk about social entrepreneurship, do you use a specific definition? How broad or how narrow?
Yeah, there's many different definitions around. For me, the essential thing is it's about trying to change something in society. So it starts with a societal problem that you want to solve. So it's a theory of change. And then how to solve that problem is through an entrepreneurial, real enterprise, not an NGO model, but building a product or a service that actually tries to contribute to solving that problem.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, that's what a social entrepreneur is.
Yeah.
And so and then if you're successful, if you create impact and profit, which is good for either people or planet. So social is not just about people, it's about people and planet. It's really about trying to build society.
Right. So you started working on War Child around 1995. Looking in hindsight, because that was an NGO, if you could have applied a more entrepreneurial approach, do you think that would have worked? Doing it.
I believe War Child is a very entrepreneurial NGO. I think that we use a lot of elements of entrepreneurialism in the NGO. However, the context War Child works in, the clients we are working for, children in war zones, will never be able to pay for the services we deliver. Right. So the idea that will ever move into a business model is not viable. Right. However, trying to use entrepreneurial elements in building an organization, which means that you try to build the organization. The more entrepreneurial people you can get into your organization, the faster you can grow. So and finding the perfect balance between control, where you're actually spending the public's money, wanting to create impact, and making sure that your people in Uganda or Afghanistan or Sierra Leone feel empowered, that they can actually be entrepreneurial in trying to build programs, in trying to innovate in programs. Yeah. You do want to keep that element in, because if everybody's just following the rules, you don't innovate, and you don't create as fast change as you can. So you need to be able to take learnings, adapt, be flexible. Yeah. So I think that entrepreneurial element is a strong element of War Child, with a lot of people that really have the same drive and want to create the best impact in the different contexts they work in. Yeah. But the business model behind the organization is one based on donor donations, and very important, a lot of donations from the public that are undesignated. So, which means that War Child can really use that money also to pilot new ideas. Because when we started doing psychosocial support, nobody was interested in it. It was not really something that was part of the package at that time. So we were being laughed at, going triangles into the war zones, and are you guys serious? And so you need to be able to find people that believe in what you do, even if you haven't proven the effect of what you do. Yeah. By now we've proven it 1,000,000 times over, but in the beginning we also needed kind of entrepreneurial money, and we need to make sure that kind of flow of money keeps going into NGOs like War Child, which means you can continue to innovate.
Sure. And do you think that the business model that NGOs has been operating, is there room for innovation there, on innovation on creating new business models?
I think more and more NGOs are trying to find public-private partnerships with corporates to try and build solutions and programs that are more entrepreneurial in a way. Yeah. So I think that is changing. But it depends. I mean, whether we're talking about NGOs in healthcare or NGOs in development cooperations or NGOs in refugee crisis, it's very, very different.
Very different, sure.
But there is definitely development, but I don't think the NGO sector is very well known for its big innovation side.
Right.
Although
there might be opportunities there, because I think you do tend to see that there's, the public obviously wants to give to certain means, but there is also an end to that, and so do companies.
Yeah, but the public really wants their euro to be spent exactly the way you're promising. And as you know, when you're trying to innovate, half of what you do will not be successful. No. And it's very difficult if you're innovating with money of the public that you've promised to spend on a certain goal and promised to create certain impact. And of course, that promise is impossible, because nobody can claim that they can actually. I mean, even in this country, where we're such a rich country, we look at jeugdzorg in the Netherlands. Yeah. Can we actually claim that every euro spent in jeugdzorg is being spent the right way? No way. So to be able to try and claim that for children in war zones, for instance, is impossible. Yeah. But that is the big complication about running an NGO, is people do expect that every euro gets spent perfectly, and that doesn't give a lot of room for innovation. That means when something seems to be working well, you will replicate, because that will bring in the funds. And that's not the drive you need to continue to change what you're doing. So that's a mechanism that doesn't really work for innovation.
No. Okay, makes sense. So if you enjoyed the conversation Willemijn and me just had, please stay tuned. Next episode will be released next week.